Myra had delivered mail for 11 years. Every morning she woke up in her small room on the shuttle called the Sparrow. Every morning she checked her list of deliveries. Every morning she flew between stations and planets, carrying packages and letters that nobody else wanted to carry. The dragons did not see her. This was fine with Myra. As they called themselves, ruled 12-star systems. They were massive creatures, some as large as buildings, with scales that shimmered like metal and eyes that burned like small suns. They had lifted humanity from Earth 200 years ago, given them jobs and places to live among the stars. But they did not respect humans. To the dragons, humans were small and weak and useful only for simple work. Postal delivery was simple work. The dragons found it beneath them. Myra did not mind. She liked her job. She liked the quiet hum of her shuttle engines. She liked watching stars slide past her window. She liked the routine of it all. Wake up, check the list, fly, deliver, repeat. On this particular morning, her list showed 47 deliveries. Most were packages going to station, where the rich dragon nobles lived and did their business. Myra had flown to 643 times before. She knew every docking port. She knew which hallways to use so she would not bother the nobles. She knew how to be invisible. The Sparrow was old and small. Its paint was chipped and its engines made a sound that the mechanics said was normal but did not sound normal to Myra. Still, it flew well enough. It carried her and her mail cart through the darkness between worlds. She reached by midday. The station was beautiful in a cold way. Everything was made of black stone and gold metal. Dragon statues lined the main corridors, their wings spread wide, their mouths open in silent roars. Real dragons walked these halls too, their claws clicking against the polished floors, their long tails sweeping behind them. Myra pushed her hovering mail cart through the service corridors. She delivered 14 packages to various offices. She delivered 7 letters to private rooms. She did not speak unless spoken to, and nobody spoke to her. Her last delivery was different. The address led her to a medical bay in the quiet part of the station. Myra had never delivered anything here before. The halls were empty. The lights were dim. The air smelled strange, like old smoke and something sweet underneath. She found the room and pressed the chime. The door opened by itself. Inside was the largest dragon Myra had ever seen. It lay on a platform designed to hold its massive body, but even so, its tail hung off the edge and curled across the floor. Its scales were not shiny like other dragons. They were dull and like ash that had been left in the cold for too long. Machines surrounded it, beeping softly, pumping fluids through tubes connected to its body. This dragon was dying. Myra could see it clearly. She had seen death before in hospitals back on the human stations. This was the same, the slowness, the heaviness in the air, the waiting. She stepped forward with her package. It was small, wrapped in silver paper. The label said only one word in the dragon language that she could not read. The dragon's eyes opened. Myra froze. In 11 years, no dragon had ever looked at her directly. Not once. They looked through her or past her or simply did not look at all. But this dragon was staring straight at her face, and its eyes were deep and golden and very, very old. It spoke. The voice was like rocks grinding together, but somehow gentle. The dragon spoke in the common language that humans and dragons shared. "You carry fire in you." Myra did not know what to say. She held out the package because she did not know what else to do. The dragon did not look at the package. It kept staring at her. "Not the fire we breathe," it said. "The older fire, the first fire." Myra swallowed. Her throat was dry. "I am just here to deliver this package. Can you sign for it, please?" The dragon made a sound. It might have been a laugh. It was hard to tell. "I have searched for 2,000 years," the dragon said, "and here you are carrying mail." The machines beeped faster. The dragon's breathing became rough. Myra wanted to call for help, but she did not know who to call. There were no doctors here, no nurses. Just her and this ancient creature and the small silver package in her hands. "I do not understand," Myra said. "You will," the dragon whispered. "They will show you, they will have no choice." The machines made a long, flat sound. The light in the dragon's eyes went out like a candle being blown away by wind. Its great head sank down onto the platform. Its body became still. Myra stood there for a long time. She did not know how long. Eventually, she placed the package on a table beside the platform. She took out her scanner and marked the delivery as complete. She noted in the system that the recipient had passed away. Then she left. She walked back through the empty halls. She returned to her shuttle. She sat in her pilot's seat and stared at the wall for several minutes. Then she shook her head, started the engines, and continued her route. There were still 17 deliveries left. The mail would not deliver itself. But something had changed. Myra felt it like a splinter under her skin, something small that she could not see but could not ignore. When she flew past a dragon warship on her way to the next station, she saw something strange through her window. The dragon pilot in the warship turned its head to follow her shuttle. Its eyes tracked her movement long after she had passed. Myra told herself it was nothing. Dragons never noticed her. This one was probably looking at something else, some other ship, some other thing. She was just a postal worker. She was nobody. But deep in her chest, in a place she could not name, something old and warm began to wake up. It had been sleeping for a very long time. It was not sleeping anymore. The sparrow flew on through the stars, and behind it the dragon warship stayed very, very still, its pilot watching until the little mail shuttle disappeared into the black. 3 weeks passed. Myra continued her work. She delivered packages to mining stations and letters to military outposts. She flew the Sparrow through asteroid fields and around gas giants and into the docking bays of 100 different places. Everything was normal. Except it was not. The rumors started small. Myra heard them from other human workers at the fuel stations where she stopped to refill her tanks. A loader named Jin told her that a dragon had stopped walking in the middle of a corridor and stared at her shuttle for 10 minutes. A cleaner named said that her friend saw a dragon noble bow its head when a certain postal ship passed by. "They say it is your ship," Jin said. "They say dragons are acting strange around you." Myra laughed. "Dragons do not notice me. I am invisible to them." "Maybe not anymore," said. Myra did not believe it. She went back to her route. She forgot about the rumors. Then she landed on Obsidian Reach. Obsidian Reach was a mining colony on the edge of the Empire. It was dark and dusty and full of machines that dug precious metals from the ground. Dragons ran the operations here. Humans did the small work that required small hands. It was not a friendly place, but Myra had delivered mail here many times before. She landed her shuttle in the public docking bay. She activated her mail cart and loaded it with packages for the colony. She walked down the ramp into the bay. A young dragon was waiting there. It was small for a dragon, probably only 50 years old. Its scales were dark purple, not yet fully hardened. It was looking at her. Myra ignored it and started pushing her cart toward the exit. Then the young dragon did something impossible. It fell to the ground, not collapsed but lowered itself deliberately. Its belly touched the floor. Its wings spread out flat on either side. Its long neck stretched forward and its throat was exposed to the ceiling. This was the deepest bow a dragon could make, the posture of complete surrender. Myra stopped walking. She stared at the dragon. The dragon did not move. "What are you doing?" she asked. Her voice sounded strange in the big empty bay. The dragon did not answer. It just stayed there pressed against the floor. Then Myra heard the sound of claws on metal. Another dragon was coming. This one was much larger, with scales the color of dried blood. It came around the corner fast, probably looking for the young one. It saw Myra. It saw its child on the ground. And then the big dragon did the same thing. It lowered itself to the floor, wings flat, throat exposed, eyes looking at Myra with something she had never seen in a dragon's face before. Fear and wonder mixed together like oil and water. More dragons came, workers from the mines, supervisors from the offices. They came to see what was happening, and when they saw Myra, they fell too, one by one, then in groups. Within 5 minutes, every dragon in the docking bay was pressed against the ground, and Myra was standing alone in the middle of them with her mail cart hovering beside her. The human workers watched from the doorways. Their mouths were open. Some of them were crying without knowing why. Myra did not know what to do. She had never been trained for this. There was no section in the postal worker handbook about dragons bowing to you. "Please get up," she said. The dragons did not move. "I am just delivering mail. Please get up." Still nothing. Myra felt her heart beating fast. She felt sweat on her face. She did the only thing she could think of. She pushed her cart forward, stepping carefully between the flattened dragons, and she delivered her packages. She went to each address on her list. She placed each package where it needed to go. She marked each delivery as complete. When she was done, she walked back to her shuttle. The dragons were still bowing. They did not rise until her shuttle had left the atmosphere. Myra flew in silence. Her hands were shaking on the controls. She did not understand what had happened. She did not want to understand. She just wanted everything to go back to normal. But it would not. When she reached her next stop, there were messages waiting for her. Hundreds of messages. News had spread across the entire system. People were talking about the human postal worker who made dragons bow. Videos were being shared. Leaders were asking questions. And then one final message arrived. It was different from the others. It was written on official paper, stamped with a seal that Myra had only seen in history books. The seal of the Dragon Emperor himself. The message was short. "You are summoned to, do not delay. The Emperor wishes to meet you." Myra read the message 7 times. Each time, the words stayed the same. She put down the paper and looked out her window at the stars. She was just a postal worker. She woke up every morning and delivered mail. She had done this for 11 years. It was all she knew. Now the ruler of 12 star systems wanted to see her face. Myra wanted to run. She wanted to fly the sparrow to the edge of the galaxy and hide among the cold stars where nobody would find her. But she knew that was impossible. The Emperor had summoned her. She could not say no. She set her course for the great palace station at the heart of the empire. Her hands were still shaking. Her heart was still beating too fast. But she flew anyway because there was nothing else she could do. Behind her, across a dozen worlds, dragons were talking about her name. Most of them had never paid attention to humans before. Now they could not look away. Something ancient was waking up, something that had been forgotten for 50,000 years. And Myra, the simple postal worker, was at the center of it all. Was the most beautiful and terrible place Myra had ever seen. The palace station floated at the center of the empire, built around a small star that had been captured and tamed by dragon technology. Light poured from its core in rivers of gold and red, making the whole structure glow like something alive. Towers rose from its surface like teeth. Ships surrounded it like insects around a flame. Myra's little shuttle looked out of place among the warships and royal cruisers. The docking officers tried to send her to the service bays, but she showed them the Emperor's summons. They went quiet and gave her a space near the main entrance. Guards were waiting for her, not human guards, dragons. They were covered in golden armor that matched their scales, and they carried weapons that could destroy buildings. When Myra stepped off her shuttle, they lowered their heads to her, not a full bow, but a dip of respect. Myra did not know how to react. She just followed them through the corridors of. Everything here was massive. The ceilings were high enough for the largest dragons to fly through. The doorways could fit small spacecraft. Myra felt like a mouse walking through a palace built for giants. The guards led her to a throne room that took her breath away. The walls were made of crystal that showed the captured star burning behind them. The floor was polished black stone that reflected everything like still water. And at the end of the room, coiled on a throne the size of a hill, was the Dragon Emperor. The 16th was old beyond imagining. His scales were deep purple, almost black, cracked with lines of gold where age had marked him. His wings were folded against his back like mountains at rest. His eyes burned with pale fire, and when they looked at Myra, she felt something stir in her chest. That same warmth she had felt 3 weeks ago. That same strange waking. Beside the throne stood 12 other dragons. These were the oldest living members of the empire. Some had scales of silver. Some had scales of green. One was so old that its scales had turned completely white, like snow that had never melted. They were all staring at her. Myra walked forward because she did not know what else to do. Her footsteps echoed in the massive room. She stopped at the bottom of the throne and looked up at the emperor. "I received your summons," she said. Her voice was small, but it did not shake. "I do not know why I am here." The emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice filled the room like thunder. "Do you know what you are?" "I am a postal worker. I deliver mail." "Yes," the emperor said, "but you are also something else, something we have not seen for 50,000 years." Myra did not understand. She said so. The emperor turned to the white dragon, the oldest of the high. "Tell her." The white dragon spoke. Its voice was softer than the emperor's, but very tired. "We were made," it said. "Long ago, before the stars were young, there was another species. They were small like you, weak like you, but very clever. They created us. They built us in laboratories and factories, designed us to be their weapons and their shields. They wrote instructions into our blood, into our bones, into the fire that burns in our hearts." Myra listened. She did not interrupt. "Those instructions included a key," the white dragon continued. If the creators ever needed to control us completely, they had the power to do so. That power was passed down through their children and their children's children, generation after generation. Most of them forgot what they carried. The gene became scattered, weak, hidden, but it never disappeared. "The creators," Myra said slowly, "they were human." "Yes." The word hung in the air. Myra felt the ground shift beneath her feet, even though the floor was solid stone. "The elder who died at station," the emperor said. "He was our oldest seer. He spent 2,000 years searching for the one human who carried the full pattern, the complete gene. He found you with his dying breath." "That is impossible," Myra whispered. "And yet here you are. And every dragon who sees you feels the recognition. The code in our blood knows you. It demands that we bow. We cannot refuse. We cannot resist. You are our creator returned." Myra looked around the room. Every dragon, even the emperor himself, was leaning forward. Their bodies were tight with tension. She realized they were fighting the urge to prostrate themselves. The high were strong enough to resist, but it was costing them effort. "I do not want this," she said. "I just want to deliver mail." The emperor made a sound that might have been a laugh. "We have waited 50,000 years for you to arrive. What you want is not important. What matters is what you are." "And what am I?" The emperor lowered his great head. His throat was exposed, just like the young dragon on Obsidian Reach. The posture of complete surrender. One by one, the high did the same. 12 ancient beings, each older than human civilization, pressing themselves to the floor before a postal worker in a worn uniform. "You are the emperor said. "You are our master. You are the one thing in all the universe that we must obey." Myra stood among the bowing dragons. She felt the warmth in her chest growing stronger. She felt the weight of something ancient and terrible settling on her shoulders. She was not just a postal worker anymore. She did not know if she ever had been. Myra refused everything they offered her. She refused the royal chambers. She refused the servants. She refused the crown they tried to place on her head. She went back to her shuttle and locked the door and sat in her pilot seat until morning. The dragons did not understand. They had waited 50,000 years for a. They expected someone who would lead them, command them, reshape the empire with a wave of her hand. Instead, they got a woman who wanted to be left alone. But Myra could not be left alone, not anymore. The news spread faster than light through the communication networks. Every station, every planet, every ship in the Empire heard about the human postal worker who made dragons bow. Some believed it. Some called it a lie. Some did not know what to think. The humans reacted first. In the lower decks of stations across the Empire, workers gathered in secret and talked about what this meant. For 200 years, they had been treated as lesser beings. Now one of them held power over the dragons themselves. Some saw hope. Others saw danger. "They will kill her," a miner said in a hidden meeting. "The dragons will never accept a human ruler." "They cannot kill her," another replied. "They bow to her, it is in their blood." "Then they will kill us, all of us, to make sure another never appears." The dragons were divided too. Most felt the recognition and accepted it, even if they did not understand it. But there were others who had spent centuries building their own power, their own influence. They did not want a human sitting above them. These dragons formed a secret group. They called themselves the Unchained. Their leader was an old named, who had fought in wars that humans had never heard of, believed that the recognition was a sickness, a flaw in their design that needed to be cut out. "We are dragons," he told his followers in hidden chambers. "We do not bow, we do not serve, especially not to a creature we could crush with one claw." "But the recognition," one dragon protested. "When I see her, I cannot." "Then do not look at her. Kill her from a distance. Kill her with machines. We are clever enough to find a way." The Unchained began their plans. Meanwhile, Myra tried to continue her old life. She flew the sparrow out of and returned to her male route. But everything was different now. Dragons followed her shuttle wherever she went. They called themselves her protectors. She did not ask for them. When she landed at stations, crowds gathered, not to attack her but to see her, to bow, to touch the ground where she had walked. Myra hated it. She had never wanted attention. Now she could not escape it. Her deliveries took 3 times as long because nobles kept stopping her in corridors. They wanted to speak with her. They wanted her blessing. Some of them cried. These were creatures that could breathe fire hot enough to melt steel, and they wept like children when she walked past. The humans were different. They watched from corners with wide eyes. Some whispered thanks when she passed. Some were afraid of her. Myra understood. She was afraid of herself too. 3 weeks after her meeting with the Emperor, the Unchained made their move. Myra was landing at a small trading post to deliver a package. It was supposed to be a simple stop, but when her shuttle touched down on the landing pad, the pad exploded. The blast was massive. Fire and metal flew everywhere. The trading post shook with the impact. But Myra was not hurt. 4 dragons had been following her shuttle. When they saw the explosion begin, they did not think. They could not think. The recognition took control of their bodies and threw them over the sparrow like living shields. They absorbed the fire. They blocked the shrapnel. They died in seconds. When the smoke cleared, Myra climbed out of her shuttle to find 4 dead dragons surrounding her. Their scales were melted. Their eyes were dark. They had died to protect a woman they had never spoken to. Myra fell to her knees. She touched one of the dragons, felt the heat still rising from its body. These creatures had been alive 5 seconds ago. Now they were gone, because of her, because of what she was. The station's alarms were screaming. Security forces arrived and found the kneeling among the dead. her hands covered in ash and blood that was not her own. "Who did this?" a security officer asked. Myra looked up. Something had changed in her eyes. The softness was still there, but something else was growing beneath it, something hard. "Find them," she said. The investigation moved quickly. The Unchained were not as careful as they thought. Within days, the leaders were identified, fled to the outer systems, but the others were captured. The Emperor wanted to execute them publicly, but he asked Myra's permission first. She refused. "No more death," she said, "not in my name." The Emperor did not understand, but he obeyed. The captured Unchained were imprisoned instead. But Myra knew this was not over. As long as she existed, there would be those who wanted her dead. As long as she existed, dragons would die to protect her. She could not live a normal life. She could not deliver mail in peace. She could not run from what she was. That night, alone in her shuttle, Myra made a decision. She would not hide. She would not pretend. If she was then she would use that power, not to rule, not to command, but to change things forever. She sent a message to the Emperor, 4 words. "Call them all together." The Emperor asked what she meant. "Every dragon," Myra wrote back. "I have something to say." They came from every corner of the empire. Dragons flew through space in ships of all sizes. They came from mining colonies and military bases, from wealthy stations and poor outposts. Some traveled for days. Some traveled for weeks. The Emperor had issued the summons and the dragons obeyed, but they were not coming for him. They were coming for her. Could not hold them all. Millions of dragons waited in orbit, watching through screens and sensors. The throne room was filled beyond capacity, bodies pressed together, wings folded tight. Every scale reflected the light of the captured star. And in the middle of them all, on a small platform built for human feet, stood Myra. She was wearing her postal uniform. She had refused every piece of royal clothing they offered. The fabric was worn and stained from years of work. Her mail cart hovered behind her, loaded with packages she had never delivered. Her scanner was clipped to her belt. This was who she was. This was who she had always been. She would not pretend to be something else. The room fell silent. Every dragon turned to look at her. Myra felt the weight of billions of eyes in the room and beyond, watching, waiting. She opened her mouth to speak. "I am not going to tell you what to do." The words echoed through the throne room. Dragons shifted, confused. They had expected commands. They had expected orders. The recognition burned in their blood, demanding that they listen and obey. "I know what you think I am," Myra continued. "You think I am your master, your creator returned. You think I am here to rule you." She shook her head. "I am not. I am a postal worker. I wake up every morning and deliver mail. That is all I have ever done. That is all I ever wanted to do." The Emperor watched from his throne. His ancient eyes were unreadable. "But I cannot ignore what I am," Myra said. "I cannot pretend that I do not carry this thing inside me, this key, this power." She paused. Her heart was beating fast, but her voice was steady. "I know what the recognition is. I know you were built with chains inside you, chains that lead to me, chains that make you bow whether you want to or not." A murmur passed through the crowd. Some dragons looked at the floor. Others stared at her with something like fear. "I do not want slaves," Myra said. I do not want an empire." She took a breath. This was the moment. Everything led to this. "So here is my first command, and my last." In the shadows at the edge of the room, a dragon moved. The leader of the Unchained had escaped from the outer systems. He had returned in secret, carrying a weapon designed to kill from a distance. He raised it now, pointing it at the human woman on the platform. He fired. The plasma bolt flew through the air, bright as a small sun. 6,000 dragons moved at once, trying to intercept it. The recognition screamed in their blood, demanding that they protect thee at any cost. But Myra raised her hand. Stop. They stopped. Every dragon in the room froze. The plasma bolt continued forward. Let him shoot, Myra said. Do not protect me. The dragons trembled. The recognition was burning in them, demanding that they disobey her words and save her anyway. But she had given a command. They could not move against her order. The plasma bolt stopped 3 inches from Myra's face. Everyone stared most of all. His claws had locked around his weapon, frozen in place. He tried to move them. He could not. The recognition would not let him harm her, no matter how much he believed he had overcome it. You cannot escape what you are by killing me, Myra said to him, and I cannot free you by dying. She turned back to the crowd. Her voice rose until it filled every corner of the room. But I can do this. The words that came next were old, older than the Dragon Empire, older than the stars that burned in the sky. They had been written into human genes 50,000 years ago, waiting for this moment. Myra did not know how she knew them, but when she opened her mouth, they came out anyway. The words were in no language that dragons understood. They were sounds that reached past understanding, past thought, past everything. They went straight into the blood and bone, into the code that had been written when the first dragons were made. I release you. The chain is broken. The recognition is yours to keep or discard. You are free. Silence. Then something happened that no dragon had felt in 50,000 years. The burning stopped. The recognition faded. It did not disappear completely. They could still feel her, still sense her presence. But the demand was gone. The need to bow, to obey, to protect at any cost. Gone. For the first time in their long history, the dragons were free. Nobody moved. The room was so quiet that Myra could hear her own heartbeat. Then the emperor rose from his throne, slowly, carefully. He was old and massive, and every movement took effort. He descended from his platform and walked across the room until he stood before Myra. He was so large that his head was still above hers even when he stood on the floor. His eyes burned with pale fire, but the fear and the wonder were gone from his face. What remained was something Myra had never seen in a dragon. Respect. The emperor lowered his head, not because he must, because he chose to. Thank you, he said. Behind him, one by one, the other dragons did the same. Not recognition, choice. They bowed because they wanted to, because this small human had given them something they had never had. Freedom. Dropped his weapon. His claws were shaking. He fell to his knees and made a sound that might have been a sob. He had spent his whole life fighting against chains he could not break. Now they were gone, and he did not know what to do with himself. Myra looked at him. There was no anger in her eyes. Go home, she said. Find something better to do. The Unchained leader nodded once and left the room. Nobody stopped him. Myra turned to the crowd one last time. I am going back to my route now, she said. There are packages that need delivering. She walked off the platform, pushing her mail cart ahead of her. The dragons parted to let her pass. Some still bowed as she went by. Old habits were hard to break, but others straightened up and simply watched, their eyes curious and free. The Sparrow was waiting in the docking bay. Myra climbed aboard, started the engines, and flew away from. Behind her, the great palace station glowed against the darkness. 6 months later, Myra was still delivering mail. The transit authority had tried to promote her. She refused. The emperor had offered her a palace. She refused that too. She was happiest in her small shuttle, flying between stars, carrying packages to places that needed them. Things had changed in the empire. Dragons and humans talked now, really talked, for the first time in 200 years. The walls between them were coming down slowly. It would take time. Generations, maybe, but it was happening. Sometimes when Myra landed at a station, she found dragons waiting. Not to bow, just to talk. They asked her questions about humans, about Earth, about the people who had created them so long ago. She answered as best she could. And sometimes when she flew through the great transit lanes between stars, she saw dragon ships passing by. They dipped their wings when they saw the sparrow. Not a bow, a greeting, one equal to another. Myra always waved back. The mail must go through after all. And in the vast darkness between worlds, watched by dragons who were finally free, a small shuttle flew on, carrying letters and packages and something else too. Hope.